Joint practices with the New England Patriots have begun. How'd it go? Brought Tyler Forno on here to find out. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much to my hashtag everydayers for listening every single day to the Locked On Vikings podcast. And everydayers, you know this guy. If you're watching, you can see him. And the 1,000-yard stare. Oh, no, there it is. If you are not, Tyler Fornes is here. The real Forno is here. He was at joint practices, watched the whole thing. I was not at joint practices. So how about we get things right from the horse's mouth? Tyler, how's that sun treating you?
Well, it's treating me about as well as it's treating you. And you can kind of see the little bit of raccoon eyes by having my sunglasses on for 20 minutes of the 2-hour practice. You gotta love it. But
so New England Patriots come to town. A lot of interesting storylines. Stephon Diggs is there. I think everybody maybe saw that clip, but if you didn't, just go to Twitter and search Okuda Diggs. Stephon Diggs got Okuda good, and in a way that is not surprising to me, considering what his tape looked like at Houston. Press, way too slow off the release, and somebody just cooks him. Which is just like Stephon Diggs is just tailor-made to punish that. But I imagine more stuff happened with that. So let's start with, I think, the headline of the day, which is in how the quarterbacks did. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May. Sounds like Drake May had a pretty good day. I heard less about J.J. McCarthy for the good or bad, but that's probably a me problem because I haven't been very plugged in. So how did J.J. McCarthy look?
Let's put it this way. He was boring, and that's a good thing. I think he was just consistent. He was making good reads. The offensive line was a little inconsistent at times. And that was one of the big things I wanted to watch. The Patriots really don't have good edge rushers. It's Harold Landry and Anthony Jennings. And Jennings is a really cool player, but I don't necessarily want him as my starting every down edge rusher kind of player. So, but it was the interior of that defensive line, Milton Williams, Christian Barmore. They got some dudes and they can whip ass in the middle of that offensive line. So how are they going to be able to handle things? And I think that they were a little inconsistent, but they were streaky, where they'd rip off 3 or 4 good plays, and then they'd allow 2 sacks in a row. So kind of the 11-on-11s were a little up and down. But I thought McCarthy, the biggest thing we've talked about him the whole offseason, his process was good. He was making good reads. He wasn't making dumb decisions. He threw a pick. He sailed Jalen Naylor by about 2 feet, and that's a little frustrating. But at the end of the day, he threw I think 2 interceptions, 1 in team and 1 in one-on-one drills. I'm okay with that. It's not that big of a deal. I thought he threw the ball relatively well. And from what I gathered talking to Patriots people, they were really impressed with his consistency.
Yeah, boring is, I think, a scary word considering, the Vikings' history with these overly conservative, but that doesn't sound like that's what you're saying. It doesn't sound that he was checking it down and doing, unexciting stuff. It was more that just he was executing things the way they were supposed to be. None of the throws were wow. None of them had to be. And that can make for really, really efficient offense. There are plenty of quarterbacks like that have taken that sort of, hey, put the ball where it's supposed to be, nothing fancy, get your consistent 7 yards all the way down to the end zone kind of style, very deep in the playoffs, including one that won it a time or 6. But, another Michigan alum you may have heard of. But I did see the 1 interception. I did see that clip, the 1 in 7-on-7, where he just sailed it really, really high, which is also how we missed Lucky Jackson in the preseason. I'm going to keep an eye on that in the preseason game against New England. If these misses continue to be high, we might be able to get a little bit more of a read on why. If we get a sample of a lot more. True. Yeah, he's not going to play, is he?
No.
Yeah, so never mind that, I guess.
And tomorrow will be the last time, so Thursday, probably be the last time the public sees him throw, other than clips on Channel 5. Until Monday, the opener.
Or whatever the Vikings are willing to release. Well, so follow up then on the quarterback. Speaking of quarterbacks who will play, I speculated a lot on this show about whether or not Max Brosmer would be ahead of Brett Rippon on the depth chart. Is he? Did it look like that to you, or is it hard to tell?
I don't think he's there quite yet. The
Okay.
unofficial depth chart got released for the game against the Patriots, and he was not above him. The only change was Lucky Jackson was the punt returner because Rondale Moore is officially out with that knee injury.
Right.
But
He's on
I
season-ending IR.
what I saw, because they did a lot of team, both 11s and 7s, and Rippon got significantly more reps. It was like 9-3, maybe something like that. He got a couple more like segments than Brosmer did. But the really interesting thing was, and I believe Ron Johnson said this on the squad show, you got to make the most of the time you got. So what did Brosmer do? He had the best throw of any Vikings quarterback on the day. 40-yard, beautiful fade route to Tim Jones, who, to his credit, made a great adjustment, tracked it well, and made the catch and took it to the house.
And that's big for him because he had a rough day in the preseason game and needs to have stuff like that happen. And he'll probably be playing plenty over the next couple weeks.
Here's something interesting for you, Luke, about that backup quarterback job.
Oh.
Brosmer has been staying after practice every single day to just keep working. He was throwing to receivers today. Ty Felton was even working with Stephon Diggs and Keenan McCardle on releases and stuff. That was really cool to see.
That's potent. You'll learn a thing or two there. Maryland friends, huh?
Yep. Here's something that's you're going to have your ears perk up about. Brett Rippon over like the last week has now joined Brosmer in throwing after practice, almost as if he's doing so to keep up with Brosmer. That was kind of the vibe I got. So I found that interesting, and it could be absolutely nothing. But
I don't see a lot in that. It's nice to see, they're putting in that extra grind, but I remember very vividly seeing like Jake Browning and Sean Mannion do that one year, and they both like stood on the 40 and threw a few at the crossbar, and and it was like kind of like good for you. It's not going to move the needle, but it can't hurt, right? Unless you're Laquan Treadwell specifically.
True that. I found that tidbit very interesting that Rippon had started joining him in those throwing sessions because they're throwing to Dante Fleming, Miles Price, like the back end of the receiver guys who just want to get in extra work and be able to try and make an impression. I found that very intriguing. And you're right. It could be nothing, but it was noteworthy to me.
So I also want to ask you about the trenches. It sounds like some interesting things went down on both sides of the ball there. And we'll put a pin in that and table that. But real quick, is there anybody else on the roster that just sort of stood out one way or another, maybe made something happen for themselves on this depth chart from these joint practices anywhere on the roster?
Oscar Chapman might be your punter.
Okay, tell me about this. What is, because the punts in the preseason game were like fine.
Mm-hmm.
Was it just a bad day for Wright, or has this been a pattern that you've been noticing over the many practices you've been to?
So they haven't done a ton of punting drills because a lot of times with the punters, what they'll do is instead of having them actually punt, they'll use like the jugs machine and just shoot the ball. So Wright did, I think, 5 punts. 4 of them were atrocious. Like he's trying to angle a coffin corner style instead of going out at like the 10 or getting like near the sideline at like 10. It's going out at like the 30. It's just real bad.
Trying something. Okay.
Oh, it's I don't. Maybe this isn't the time to try something, but we know that Ryan Wright hasn't necessarily been the best punter over the past couple of years. His rookie season was pretty promising. There's like, okay, maybe they found a guy and this guy can be a solid punter for the next 5 to 10 years. That'd be great. Then he kind of took a big regression. 23 and 24 was pretty meh. But I mean, it just feels like even though he's got $650,000 fully guaranteed, if you were to keep Oscar Chapman, you would still save like $200,000 versus not having Oscar Chapman as your punter. So there is still some
international exception too.
I don't think that counts with the 53-man roster anymore.
Oh, that might just be a practice squad thing.
But at the end of the day, it's interesting that I think this may be inching closer to an actual battle than they're just going to give the job to Ryan Wright because I thought he was really poor.
In the preseason game, Oscar Chapman did get a punt. And that's, sometimes we see these specialist battles and the quote unquote competitor like never even gets to play in the preseason game. You're like, okay, you were kind of just here to make sure the kicker didn't have to kick too many times.
Yeah.
But a narrative is developing in my head. Okay, walk with me. So a couple months ago, I had Chris Cluey on the show and asked him about Ryan Wright. And he said, Ryan Wright's fine. He's okay. But there's a hang time issue. So if there's a hang time issue, if we're to believe Chris Cluey's knowledge about punting, which I am inclined to.
Same.
Feels like a figure of authority. So if there's a hang time issue and Oscar Chapman has been, and the beat has been talking about it a little bit, like, hey, Oscar Chapman's like maybe a little bit more. I also saw Oscar Chapman was holding for kicks now. So maybe they really are considering this. And then they go to Ryan Wright and say, hey, you got a hang time issue. You need to do this a different way. Let's try some coffin corner stuff today. And then we'll see if it works out and expect that to be a bit of a work in progress, but maybe that's the kind of thing. This is I'm fanficking here. I don't know what it is, but something to keep in mind. I want to get into trench talk with you next here on the Locked On Vikings podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. The NFL kickoff is drawing ever nearer, and that means it is fantasy draft season. Everything I'm doing in fantasy football this year, I'll be doing through the Yahoo Fantasy app, and you should too, whether you are a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. They have all kinds of fun features and new ways to play, from classics to guillotine leagues, and it's just an app that works. It's fast, it's smooth, it's not going to be difficult to manage, and you're not going to be waiting for it to load all day while you're trying to make that last-second waiver claim or sit-start decision. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there is one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Moving along with the Locked On Vikings podcast. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. If you would like some film breakdowns from that preseason game, I have one of an instant reaction to the preseason game, talking about the first team and everything that happened on the first team reps. And then another one going over in excruciating detail the backup quarterbacks and how all three of those had their different days, the misses, the hits from everybody. So go check those out. It's at patreon.com/LukeBraunNFL. But let's transition to trench talk. It sounds like the defensive lines won the day on both sides of the ball, but like you said, up and down for the Vikings O-line. I saw a lot of highlights from the Vikings D-line. And a lot of talk of highlights from the Vikings D-line. Or was it more of an up and down there as well, and I'm just seeing the highlights?
It was more of an up and down kind of day. Sometimes from our purview in the bleachers, because we're still working on that credential, it's hard to really get a good sense of it because you are
where the everymen are.
Yeah, you were only looking at the backside of the Vikings defenders. So if you're looking straight out on the left side, Vikings offense, Patriots defense, and they're coming at you. And on the right side, it's Patriots offense, Vikings defense, and the Patriots are coming right at you. So it wasn't necessarily easy to always see, but I will share a couple things that I found really interesting. Grenard still looks like Grenard. He's bonkers. Javon Hargrave whipped your boy Garrett Bradbury a couple times.
I saw some nasty stuff happen to Garrett Bradbury, and I don't want to talk. Move on. I don't want to talk about it. Move on. Next thing.
And then one thing that I got from talking, because I was at dinner with some Patriots beat guys tonight, they asked me who 61 was. I'm like, oh, that's Jalen Redmond. He's good. And then I told
a dude.
Yeah. And I told the story. They're like, wow, it's a cool story. That dude rips. And I'm like, yeah, he was making some noise today. I want to throw this by you because I found it really interesting. And this is obviously coming from Paul Allen. So you got to always take PA with a little bit of a grain of salt for a lot of different reasons because he's the
He is a
voice of the
team
Vikings.
employee.
Yes, but he apparently said that Gabe Murphy's having a better camp right now than Dallas Turner. And kind of opining, do you just play Gabe Murphy over Dallas Turner? And I know early on he was the talk of camp. It was the Dallas Turner show, and everybody's like, this guy looks different. Well, I'm going to be real with you. We saw those clips from the night practice where Walter Rouse just housed him. And then when I was at practice last week, Walter Rouse housed him 2 more times for kind of the same exact reasons where he's just trying to win the leverage battle, and Rouse has enough power to just stop him because that's one thing Turner doesn't have. It's not a speed to power, it's a speed to leverage. And he's real good at it. But if you don't get enough power generated against some of these big boys, they can stuff you. This isn't the SEC anymore. So I think he's got a learning curve there.
Yeah,
but
like if I got great leverage on Walter Rouse, I ain't winning that rep. And it's a less extreme version of kind of that idea. You still need to have enough power generation, and that's been the issue with Dallas Turner. Yeah.
I think he's going to get there, but there is a reason he just turned 22. He's still getting an NFL body. So I'm not concerned with that yet, but I might be in time. We'll find out how things continue to develop. But I found that really interesting because Murphy's had a really good camp, and that preseason game was really good. And it was how he won. And there's this quote floating around from Von Miller. He's like, yeah, the pass rush moves are cool, but I've won with a ghost move like 5 times. 90% of my wins are with raw speed and raw power, and that's it. So I feel like there might be something to that with Murphy, where even though he's got this massive deficiency with his arm length, he's just whipping guys around the arc, and it doesn't even matter. So I thought I'd at least throw that in your purview.
Yeah, that's how it worked against the Texans, and he had such a great game against the Texans. I'm going to push back on PA a little bit, at least from the preseason game. Gabe Murphy and Dallas Turner did not play the same position.
And Turner barely played.
Yeah, he played his first drive, and Gabe Murphy played across from him. And Dallas Turner played the drop into coverage Van Ginkel version of it, while Gabe Murphy played the Jonathan Grenard, just rush around the edge. Maybe we'll drop you in a sim pressure, wants to be fancy. And then when Turner came out of the game and Bo Richter replaced him, Bo Richter played that job. So I see Gabe Murphy as just being the backup Grenard and Dallas Turner as being the sort of backup / rotational Van Ginkel. But the team has been pretty clear about their intention to play him more, but they were also clear with Brian Asamoah, and he just got cut. So that, words only take you so far. We'll see it go. I doubt Dallas Turner will be playing against the Patriots on TV though. So we might not really be able to see that. For whatever it's worth, in the 2 clips that I saw of defensive stuff, I think they were both Javon Hargrave highlights, and Dallas Turner was doing something pretty cool in those 2. So yeah, I'm not quite convinced of that argument.
I'm not either, but I just found the discussion point interesting.
Gabe Murphy's getting on the field in the regular season. He is not going to be, healthy scratch that he was last year. After he came back from his injury, like he's clearly worthy of playing in the regular season. And I see him in very much the same way I see Jalen Redmond. He's going to be a rotational guy, but like kind of a fun rotational guy. This is like a Naz Reid vibe. You're really fun off the bench, Well, so offensive line, speaking of, by the way, I also think that what Walter Rouse has done in this camp, I think there's a reason they're starting to flirt with him, giving him more first team reps over Justin School. But I don't know if anybody can hang with Jonathan Grenard, and it didn't look like anybody on New England could either. But offensive line wise, let's get in a little bit more into the specifics. There was one very viral Donovan Jackson clip of a screen where he blocked 3 Patriots and a Viking. And like many, like bodies hit the floor. This was not just he kind of slowed him up, like bodies hit the floor. Really cool stuff. You love to see that kind of athleticism from the new kid. Even though his preseason game went pretty poorly, at least in my opinion, we'll see if he can get any redemption in these joint practices, or maybe in the preseason if they put him in. I wouldn't be shocked to see them play the rookie just to get some tread on his tires. But what other observations did you have about the O-line?
Not a ton. I thought the O-line was a little streaky, like I said earlier.
As a unit, but I'm like individuals.
some of it was hard to see. I thought Donovan Jackson had some really good reps. I didn't really see him lose all too often, which has been an improvement because there have been some pretty egregious losses early on during camp. And I think a lot of that just has to do with he's a rookie and he's going against dudes. And you're just going to
Jonathan
lose.
freaking Allen is across from you every play. Yeah.
Yeah. Just Jonathan Allen just doing a hump move and you're just getting absolutely bamboozled because he's one of the best in the world at doing the hump move. Like that's just kind of what you're dealing with. But I think he's starting to kind of figure it out, starting to feel more consistent. And I will say, we got to see a decent amount of Darisaw today, which there's been some chatter among the beat. And Kevin O'Connell kind of referenced it in his press conference. They've gotten him a lot of work early in August. I think he's starting week 1. I really do. It's over 9 months. It's actually about 10 months since the surgery date because the surgery was at the beginning of November. And it just feels like with how they've worked him in, that he's going to be the guy week 1, and that's going to be huge for McCarthy.
Yeah, it's a plan that makes sense if your goal was September 9th. Mm-hmm. And on September 9th, you want him to be back, and that's like the cadence you would come up with that calendar date in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been a goal, not a pipe dream, but also not a guarantee. But it sounds like we're getting closer and closer and closer to that date. So I think the wide receiver cornerback stuff is usually what gets featured a little bit more. And we've had some really interesting matchups here, even though some of the most fun Patriots didn't participate, like no Christian Gonzalez, which is a bummer. But there's still, I think, a lot to glean from the coverage stuff. So that'll be next on Locked On Vikings. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, or maybe you don't even know how many 401ks you got sitting out there somewhere, or your properties or your investments. It's so much to track. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money that can help you get organized. Whether you're just trying to budget, cut back, save a penny here or there, or actually set and achieve more ambitious financial goals, Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts into one central place easily in minutes, and everybody can stay on the same page. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off of your first year. That's 50% off of your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL. Moving along with the Locked On Vikings podcast here with Tyler Fornes, training camp joint practice attender and enjoyer, I would hope.
Yes.
So wide receiver, corner, secondary, the kind of 7-on-7 of it all. It sounds like Drake May had an awesome day.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the Vikings failing to cover? And does that give you any concern? I know 7-on-7 is very bad for defenses. The defenses are at a huge disadvantage there compared to where they would be in a real game. So it's not the greatest thing like on its own. But do you have any reason to be concerned in spite of that?
No. And I think the biggest reason why I'm not concerned is they didn't do any of the blitzy stuff. It was very vanilla, very basic kind of coverage structures because Flores doesn't want to get anything out there that he's going to kind of utilize. So they're just running like basic cover 2, basic cover 3. They're not doing anything. So I'm not super concerned. The one thing that I found interesting is they did at the end of practice, 1:15 on the clock, one timeout, down by 3. 2-minute drill. And second play, Drake May hits Travion Henderson for a wheel route, 60-yard touchdown.
Got him.
Travion Henderson rules, by the way. That
RB1 in this class, some were saying.
Yes, you were saying.
Some knew.
Very good football player. If he stays healthy, watch out. But May's biggest thing was he was just kind of overshooting guys a little bit early on deep balls, but then kind of dialed it in. One-on-ones is not going to be where this defense thrives as far as a drill perspective, because this defense isn't predicated on man coverage. So like Okudah, how he lost looked like Aqib Talib in 2015 to rookie Diggs. Like it was
What a bull. Michael
was
Crabtree
bad.
snatching his chain.
Oh, it was well,
Did
you
Stephon
remember
Diggs leave with more jewelry than he started with, or
you remember the route I'm talking about, right? Where Diggs made Aqib Talib look like a child.
yeah,
He did the
that was when
Akuda.
we learned. Well, wait,
Yeah.
this guy might be because he was just a 5th round rookie. It would be
Yeah.
like not unlike Ty Felton doing that to
Mhm.
like I don't know who's good in. I was going to
DJ
say in
Reed.
Cincinnati, yeah,
I
like
don't know.
DJ or somebody good in Pittsburgh, like Joey
Yeah.
Porter Jr. just like cooking him. Like, whoa, what?
It was oh yeah, it was kind of rough, but at the same time, I thought the one thing I really liked about the one-on-one drills from a Vikings perspective, I thought Isaiah Rodgers looked really good from the sense that he didn't get beat. He got beat, but he didn't get beat in an extreme way. Stayed really patient and under control almost every single rep. And that was something that stood out to me in a big way when I watched his Philly film. He was patient and let everything come to him. And that continued. And I thought that was a really nice thing. Also, shout out Jay Ward, pick 6 today
Oh,
in team drills. I think it was a Josh Dobbs ball. I can't remember. But May threw a couple picks too.
Dobbs threw one to McLovern, who jumped
Mhm.
one for a pick 6. That I saw that clip.
Yep.
And I know from following Patriots beat reporters that was not the only pick Josh Dobbs threw. A likely story. It's what he does. It's okay. We love him very dearly.
Yes.
He'll never have to pay for a drink in Minnesota again.
No. Just overall, I thought it was very well constructed practices. Everything was under control. Nobody was getting like testy, no extracurriculars. It was just good business. Tomorrow or Thursday, I think we're going to see some just because now it's day 2. But
yeah, now they'll get all pissed at each other. Yeah.
You'll love this. At the end, they're doing that special teams drill where one guy's trying to prevent the other guy from getting to the tackling dummy, like the punt returner drill.
That's a fun drill.
Yeah. I love when they do it at the Senior Bowl. Javon Baker just straight up murdered Dwight McGloin, just grabbed him and threw him. And the entire Patriots, like special teams group, was mauling him. That was awesome.
Oops.
Yeah, there were some egregious losses in that drill, but I thought it was really competitive. Just O'Connell and Vrabel put on a really good practice. It was something that everybody could have enjoyed from the fan perspective. The media got plenty to talk and write about. And I think you got some really good stuff from a coaching perspective to see, hey, this is what we're seeing. This is what we can improve on. I just thought it was just really good all around.
I don't think I've talked about Isaiah Rodgers enough and the sort of like the things that I note. I think we got the same thing a little bit off of his Philly tape where he kind of lets the game come to him. And I've always thought, he plays like a guy who knows he's faster than you. And he just never respects his cushion at all. He just lets you chew it right up. And that makes it so hard to pull one over on him. It makes it so hard to do anything deceptive because he's just got his eyes on you the whole way. And he just refuses to react to anything you'll ever do. So whether it's real or not, you can't really like get him to step out of position. And that makes it really hard to run around. And yeah, you could run right by him and maybe hope that, he kind of play a game of chicken and he takes it too far. But because he's so fast, he's got the recovery speed where whatever separation you do create is going to kind of have a time limit on it. Is there anything else from this? I think, O'Connell and Vrabel putting on like a clean, well executed, well-oiled practice is not super surprising to me. I mean, Vrabel's got a long reputation of being that guy. Kevin O'Connell has a younger reputation, but of being that guy. But is there anything else either on the whole or any specific performances you want to shout out that really stuck out to you as the Vikings finally competed against somebody else?
Jordan Addison and JJ McCarthy's chemistry is getting really, really, really good.
Oh, let's go here. Let's talk about this for 10 minutes and then end on it.
Yeah.
And talk real slow for everybody. Like really, deep your voice a little bit, whisper it maybe.
Imagine JJ McCarthy to Jordan Addison. Now, it was really cool to see. They started obviously doing one-on-ones. They connected a couple times. And then at the end, they transitioned to 7-on-7s and then they transitioned to 11-on-11s. and it was consistent the whole time. And I just thought that was really, really cool to see how everything just grew and developed, and it stayed constant. They just, like, in 7-on-7s, Addison was just finding the hole, fired him in there. They were finding each other on like deep corner routes, perfect throws, great stuff. I think that,
You mean deep balls to the outside?
yeah,
Oh, baby.
I know. And it was awesome to see. I think that chemistry is really starting to grow, develop, and build. And once you get Justin Jefferson back, oh, buddy, I think Addison might be ready to take like a big leap this year and start really torching some of those CB2s because he gets a lot of single coverage. You're not going to be able to do that for much longer.
I think Alex Lewis used the word unguardable.
Yep.
And again, 7-on-7, 1-on-1s, wide receiver is going to have a big advantage, of course, but that's kind of what we've been seeing from Addison all camp. And like, I remember sitting with you in 23, his rookie year, and watching him and seeing like, oh, wow, there's like 2 legit route runners on this team. Or 3, because I think Thielen was still there, right? In 23. So was it KJ still?
Yeah, it was KJ.
Okay, yeah. It was like there was like Justin Jefferson, and then Jordan Addison looked really cool, and then there was like everybody else. And it feels like we're kind of getting that way again. Where it's like, oh yeah, okay, if Justin Jefferson wasn't on this team, this dude would go for 1,500 yards. Oh, yeah. It feels like that guy is what Addison is, and it's a bummer that we have to wait 3 weeks to see him. But when the offense gets that shot in the arm, I think that will be a really welcome headline. Addison reinstated, especially if the Vikings have struggles out the gate. They're 1-2 going on this big Europe trip, and okay, but they're getting this shot in the arm. That could be a really big deal. And it's brutally fatal when your quarterback knows exactly how to throw to the fast guy. That's so hard because those routes leave very little margin for error if the throws are good. But kind of the whole game is that those throws are very often going to require huge adjustments, and therefore they're going to let defenders make plays. And the kind of the radius is, the smaller you can make the radius, the harder it is to defend, right? And probably not breaking any new ground there. But if you can throw those accurate deep balls, especially from somebody like McCarthy, who that was supposed to be one of his weaknesses, and then somebody as fast as Addison who can really stress a safety, really stress a corner, it starts to open up so much stuff underneath, or it just becomes explosive plays that can be absolutely nasty, fatal. And by the way, even if we don't have that for the first 3 games, we do get another receiver back that I hear is not so bad. Number 18.
I think he's okay.
He's all right. Wide receiver 2, maybe. He's no Christian Watson. Thank you all so much for hanging out. I will talk to you tomorrow with a 53-man roster projection. I got an updated one. And as always, Skull.